Was I fragments of silicon dreaming that I was a man, or was I a man dreaming that I was fragments of silicon?
All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Daylight interviews. Right, joining us this week is Erik Rempen of Silk Software.
Hello. Thanks for
Hello.
having me.
No problem. Thank you for being here. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all of that sort of business. And we begin this journey by asking this particular question: what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
That's a good question. There actually, I guess it's two different questions. Um, I started on a personal level when I was a kid. I always played video games, just like many of us do.
Mm.
Some of my favorite games back in the day were like Morrowind. There was a game called Populous: The Beginning, which was a big influence, um,
Mm.
and StarCraft and things like that. All kinds of games. And I kind of dropped out of the scene for a while as I got older, and I became a solo developer. Um, I think 2017, 18, and went full time 2019 until now. So yeah, Silk Softworks is my company, but yeah, it's just a one man band plus the help of whoever I can get to help me. Yeah.
Not an uncommon refrain on this program, truth be told. Um,
Yeah.
but I suppose digging a little deeper, was there any particular event or rationale for going, commercial?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I was kind of in a weird spot. I was working in Asia, and I was working at a marketing company, and I absolutely hated it. It was something I was really good at because I was doing graphic design and like video editing and things like that. And I was making ads and things for companies that I don't know. I'm kind of an anti-capitalist, but like when I was younger, quite a bit, and I just felt like I needed to get out. I wanted to get out somehow, so I started making games in my like weekends, um, just to I guess to try to like prove to myself that like my creativity was gonna do something beneficial at some point, and um, once my game started coming together, this is Kainga Seeds of Civilization.
Mhm.
Once it started looking decent, I posted it on Twitter and stuff just for some feedback and things. And publishers started reaching out to me, and that's when I thought, perfect, I'm going to dive all in and quit the marketing job. And conveniently, this was right around the time of COVID as well. So
Right.
it's a perfect time to be locked in your home with like a 2 year long project. So it was really, really kind of um, what do you say when uh, the perfect timing, I guess, for that kind of a jump.
Perfect storm, I think.
Yeah, the perfect storm, I suppose. Yes, all signs, all the stars aligned. I guess not the stars, it's the planets. The planets aligned.
Indeed. Um, Quite a few stories in recent times have revolved around the same same basic framework. Like
Mhm.
finally getting to do your game dev project during COVID times.
Right.
Like,
That's probably because there was a lot of money getting thrown around at
yep.
during COVID times. And for example, the publisher I went with, which was Green Man Gaming, a UK publisher,
Mm.
I was one of their first projects that they were branching out into. Green Man Gaming is mostly a retail company.
Right.
So like Steam, I think they sell Steam keys or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
They're a a Steam key reseller, though they're
Yeah.
not like, from what I understand, they're reputable.
Yeah, they
As opposed to,
certify
say,
the keys are real, unlike certain other outfits.
yeah,
Mhm.
looking at you, G2A, but they don't
Yeah.
advertise here, so we don't have to be nice to them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I was one of their first like publishing adventures, I guess. They did a couple other games as well, and it was just a time like video games were just kicking off like crazy at that point. So money was flowing in at quite a rate, which I think is different. Last year there was a big drought of financial availability, and I think it's kind of balanced out now. Things are coming back, kind of bouncing back towards the positive
I'm
in
like,
my mind.
but that's a thorny issue, especially in the last 48 hours. Though I suppose that's more on the game journalism side of things, but yeah.
I mean, there's still massive layoffs on all the big companies, right? Because I think they've all overextended quite a bit.
It's not just
Um,
the major companies, like the indie, like a lot of indies are hurting. Like, it's bad times all around, if we're being honest. Like, a
mm,
lot of the money that you were talking about that was flowing in during COVID has flown out.
yeah,
Um,
it's been
you
spent.
know,
Yeah.
spent, invested, and no, the spigots are empty. So
Mhm.
lot of crumbling going on.
Yeah, and that's true. Actually, was searching for a publisher for my more recent game called Shantytown,
Mhm.
and I was unable to find one during my search. And this was 2 years ago or last year as well.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah, the start of last
that
year.
is not surprising in the least.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah, people, when they're talking about the state of the games industry, they're mostly focused on the layoffs, um, or the closures that's happening in the AAA space, but it's going on at all levels and all departments of the video game industry. Like, just this week, we have had new, big time layoffs in the journalism sector.
Mhm. Yeah, and price increases I saw for Xbox and all Xbox games as well,
Yep.
and of course
Yep.
Nintendo Switch 2, like that whole um, deal with
And
the tariffs and trying to balance out that cost across the whole globe.
some of
Yeah,
it's tariffs, some of it's just plain old fashioned price gouging. Hint: Microsoft does not need to raise the price of its games, and
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
especially egregious for the price of their previously released game.
Yeah.
That's just price gouging.
Also,
Yeah.
consoles that are not in heavy production anymore. There's no real reason to increase the price on that.
I'm
Well,
like, once
yeah.
again, that's probably more tariff related. Um,
Mm.
but what we're talking about here is the price of games, and especially
Yeah.
digital games.
Yeah. If it
There are
was
no
just
tariffs.
the physical games going up like a couple bucks, fine. But no, they're like actually price gouging on the digital games too.
Yes.
Mm.
So we're probably going to talk about that more next week on our primary show. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
it's like it's been a turbulent couple of days
Yeah.
at time of broadcast. Um, but we don't want to get too far off track in terms of larger industry issues. Um, so getting back to Kayinga here, I think you mentioned that it was heavily inspired by Populist the beginning, which
Yeah. Are you
is
familiar?
actually I am. I had that back in 1998.
Yeah.
Didn't play a whole lot of it, but I'm familiar with it. as I am the first Populous game. If I'm
Mhm.
remembering correctly, Populous the beginning was the third.
Yeah,
No.
there was Populous 1 and 2, and they were both kind of like built into this book or something. Like
Yeah,
2D games. I think it was a limitation of like pixel space, and they had to kind of
it
compress the
wasn't.
whole map or something like that.
I mean, it wasn't so much me that played the first Populous, but my father played
Mhm.
Populous on the family Super Nintendo a
Yeah.
lot.
I never played the first two Populous. I only played Populous the beginning, and I don't know, something as a kid I played it a lot, like a ton. And I hadn't
Mhm.
seen any like real spiritual successors to that game. I really liked their 2D characters in a 3D world, and so
Yeah.
I emulated that. And basically, if I had like questions on how to handle things mechanically, I would like look at Populous at least at the beginning while I was just testing or like teaching myself how to develop games.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how it started, and then I was also I am still quite like a world traveler, and I wanted to build a game that kind of experimented with the idea of creating a culture as you played the game. Um, and I wanted it to be logical to what you needed rather than just a big list of things to do. You know, like when you play Civilization or something like that, every culture or every civilization has to get, writing or ship shipwright or um, horseback riding, all those things, whatever, all the technologies, you kind of collect them all. But I wanted to make a game where you didn't need to collect them all. You only took the technologies that were relevant to you. And I kind of fell into that kind of, I guess, city builder roguelite type of game play.
Hmm. Like that's certainly an ambitious direction to go for your first game.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was a smart idea to start with that, but I think in the end it turned out to be a benefit because not many people were creating city builders at the time, and also there was quite a high demand for it. Compared to, I could have made like a platformer or something like that, which would have been a lot easier. But
Right.
there's something about the passion when you're young. There's like a passion that you can pull yourself across the finish line just by being excited about it. So I think if I took the advice to kind of make steady games and grow slowly, I think I probably would have burnt myself out and changed careers. But I just had this like strong plan from the beginning, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then I laid out all the steps to get it done and did it. I mean, it wasn't that easy, obviously. It took
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Right. But um how do I put this? Pretty much any indie game you would have chosen, like even if you'd done a platformer, most likely it would have taken years,
Yeah.
like unless you kept that to a very small scale. Because, yeah, we've had other game devs, other solo devs on the program who have gone down that particular route, and it still took them 2 to 3 years to create it
Mhm.
because, um, you know, just making a game of that size as one person is gonna take a while.
Yeah.
You
This is
maybe a
where
different,
the Yeah, this is where the
different story.
roguelite genre
Yeah.
kind of helped me out in a sense because basically my job was to create the foundations and create the interactions and then let the game play itself out basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, which really helped. Now I'm making a game that's a little bit more linear, and I'm surprised how long it takes just to do all these more linear things. Um, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
also through development, I didn't have to finish the game in order to launch it through early access because it was a roguelite. I could say like, oh, these areas are locked off for now, and these mechanics are not yet in. There's no snow. There's no boats or balloons or something, and then I could just keep adding that in, and with the side benefit of the game keeps being interesting to those who are playing it because it's constantly being updated, which is really cool. Got a lot of feedback from players like, "Oh, you should add this and this," and it's like, "Oh, okay, why not?" And then I throw it in, and then it would resonate really well with players.
I mean, being a roguelike isn't a prerequisite for being early access.
That's true. Yeah. But it did give me the excuse to have it not quite finished.
I suppose so. I
But
mean, if nothing
yeah,
else, it sounds like it provided a good the models complement each other.
exactly. Yeah. Yes. And I
Yeah.
think the roguelite allows it to still be playable while unfinished quite extensively, because people had hundreds of hours in it in the first iteration. Some people, um, because of that replayability and the kind of randomness, the roll of the dice, of everything that you get each time. But yeah,
Indeed. And how long did Kainga spend in early access?
it spent only 1 year,
Hmm.
which was the request of my publisher at the time. We had a plan set out. 1 year was going to be a launch, and then there was 5 updates during 1 year, and then it would launch in early access December 2022, perhaps.
Hmm.
23
And
maybe. Yeah.
did it keep to the plan?
It did keep to the plan, yeah. I think I did probably overextend myself a bit. I think I worked harder than I should have. Actually, suffered an appendicitis on the
Oh
launch of the
dear.
game. Yeah, which I think was brought on by stress or something. I don't really know where appendicitis comes from, but I have a feeling it was just a little bit overworked. And I actually pushed the green button to launch the game from the hospital, which I think was a bit of I should have just delayed it, but I had so many wheels in motion, because I already given the game out to like YouTubers and things, given them deadlines, not deadlines, but embargoes to post their videos, and then suddenly I had to go to the hospital. And it's like, oh, I'm not going to stop now. Just let it go.
I mean, it's something you could do from your hospital bed from the sound of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. I mean,
I
luckily
mean,
everything was done, right?
yeah, like, um, but
But I
I'm
don't think it
just,
was an ideal way to build a game. Basically, I think I overworked myself, so I'm trying to this time around. I'm trying to be more conscious about that and take regular hours and weekends and things like that, which is much better.
yeah, I'm like that is a issue with the indie dev set, sort
Mhm.
of a self-imposed crunch.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Um,
you're under this. Yeah, exactly. It's a self-imposed pressure to do as good as you can and do better than everyone else, right? So you just
mhm.
work and work and work and keep on tinkering. I think any passion project of any kind is kind of um, vulnerable to that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah, absolutely. Um,
yeah,
in in a few ways. General rule of thumb is, passion is good, obsession is not. And
Hmm.
yeah, working yourself into sickness, um, no matter what the circumstances, whether they be your own pressures or external pressures, let's say, is not good.
yeah.
Uh,
And yes, absolutely. And it's kind of hard to see when you're so deep in the trench.
no
Um,
doubt.
yeah.
Um, but I suppose
There's a
it's worth
weird thing.
asking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a weird thing as well when you launch a game. Um, it's kind of, I don't know. There's this mental thing where you you've been spending so much time on a game, and you've been putting all your effort into it, and it's been so important to you for so long, for months and years, and then when it comes out, that it's doesn't, I don't know, whatever response you get kind of doesn't satisfy, and there's an inevitable, like, I guess, like, kind of a depression afterwards, where you feel, because you've been working so hard for so long, and then when it's out, you're like, what do I do with myself, you know? And it's not as important as you thought it was, right? Because life just carries on. But yeah.
Yeah, that's been like that's a conversation I've been having with devs for a good long while.
Mhm.
Like I have some game dev friends ta- who have described that exact thing. It's like,
Mhm.
in fact, there's a name for it: post-release depression. Um,
Yeah.
maybe a bit over dramatic there, but you know,
I don't know. I think it's spot on. And I'm glad I'm making all the mistakes everyone else made.
I mean, I can't comment on that, but yeah, what you are describing is not unknown territory, um, for better or
Yeah.
for worse.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and it is also a matter of perspective, as you've mentioned. You know, like Kainga here was what, 3 years of your life.
Yeah, that's true.
To the consumer, it's just another strategy game.
Yeah. And that imbalance of importance is such a weird thing to deal with.
No doubt. Like, and you know, people deal with it in different ways, um, or they get burnt out, as you mentioned, um,
Mhm.
because yeah, that's the danger of spending so much time, so much of yourself on one project. Um,
Yeah.
and
Sometimes.
we know people who had to leave the industry because of just spending 3 years on a game and getting no real return on it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that's a tricky thing to balance. Um, I don't have a
and
solution for that, but my strategy has been to get paid before the game releases. So that's kind of what I try to do, and so far it's been working out.
Indeed, well, it's also it's not a one size fits all, because there are people here, there are people in the industry who have the exact opposite philosophy.
Yeah.
There are people who will not spend a whole lot of time on a game for these reasons. Like, 18 months on a game or whatever is like the max.
hmm
Yeah.
It's not that common, but they definitely exist.
And I understand that because 2 years is a long time, or one and a
Yep.
half years is a long time to work on anything, really. So I think moving forward, I'm going to try to cut things down even further as well.
But on the other end of the spectrum, we know developers help. We had a game dev on our Wednesday program this week who talked about doing their game for 6 years, and
Yeah.
they're still not done. You and I
Yeah.
think the record, in terms of game dev time, is currently like 9 years.
Well, maybe Dwarf Fortress is like 20 years, right?
It's- that's a bit different, though. That's a
Yeah, that's
game
kind
that
of like a ship of Theseus, right? It just keeps
something like that. It's more perpetual early access, let's say. But
right.
you can download and play Dwarf Fortress right now.
Yeah.
As opposed to some of the other games mentioned, like at best they have a demo out, but like the main skeleton isn't accessible.
Right.
Anyway, I suppose with all this talk, it is perhaps important to ask how successful your first game was in the marketplace. How well did Kainga do?
Um, it did pretty well in my eyes. I think it was a pretty good success. It has about 600 reviews, which is pretty good for a solo developer project.
Mm-hmm.
Which means we sold about, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it's something 20 something thousand copies.
That's
Most of them in the US, and then also quite a few in Russia and China. And then some other like European countries like Germany and France after that.
that is that's a pretty solid number for a not just a solo dev,
But for
but
the
also
first,
your
yeah,
your first project. I'm not,
yeah. It's a bit of a
um,
fluke, to be honest, and I kind of thought I could kind of roll with that success, and I don't think that I'll be as lucky the second time. But
I,
um,
yeah,
hard to say.
that's that is another concern, because just because you hit the jackpot once doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen again.
Mhm.
Like, conversation with another game dev we had a few months ago about that very thing, and it's a very depressing situation there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the numbers are kind of hard to uh, grasp as well, but because yeah, we have sold that many copies, but the game's been out for 3 or 4 years now, and it broke even last month. So the costs don't haven't really outbalanced the, or I guess the profits haven't outbalanced the costs as much as you would think they would at that point.
Uh-huh.
But that was kind of my goal from the very start, was just to make a bit of profit, and finally that dream has come true.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm pretty proud of the game now. It's really, I was pretty sick of it when I launched it, to be honest, because I mean, you work on it
Yeah.
for 3 years, it's gonna be like that. But
Yep.
looking back now, I think it's pretty cool. There's a lot there. There's a lot you can dive into. There's tons of unlockables, and it's sometimes I'm surprised when I go back and play it every once in a while. Like, oh, I don't remember doing that. And there's technologies and weird things that kind of come together really nicely.
Indeed. Um,
Yeah.
and I also noticed that Green Man Gaming doesn't seem to be in the picture anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how I broke even. Our contract with them was fulfilled. We had a 3-year publishing contract since the date of early access release, and that kind of ended. We had a little bit of an extension, but apart from that, I got full control of it again, which is great. Very exciting. And yeah. Although we did part ways amicably. They were a pretty good publisher, and this time I'm going self-publishing with my upcoming game, Shantytown.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking back now, and I really appreciate the work that they did for me to try to, take the burden of many things off of the devs side. But at the time, I was pretty grumpy. I kind of felt like I was getting a one-sided deal. But I now I kind of look back fondly. So everything in hindsight, is a little bit more clear.
Uh, Indeed, like that. Yeah, that's a very complicated conversation in its own right. Publishers, indie publishers,
Mm.
how useful they are, and um, all that business. But
Yeah.
you know, they do exist for a reason. Let's leave it at that. Like,
Yeah. And
um,
if there's indie developers listening and they're on the fence about whether to go with a publisher or not, I would say you should go with a publisher, but be smart about it and, you know, read your contract and make sure you mentally accept the deal as well, you know?
it, it's also a good idea to check on the reputation of a
Yes.
publisher before you sign in. Oh boy,
Mhm.
I'm like, because yeah, there are there are some bad seeds out there.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some that are intentionally trying to swindle you, although most I don't think are. My publisher was a little bit inexperienced, and that was kind of their downfall. But so was I, you know, so that was my downfall. So it was a risk we were taking on each other. And
Right.
we learned to grow and figure things out simultaneously. And I used to work in marketing, like I said, so I knew a few tricks they didn't, and vice versa. So we were
Mm.
able to help each other out. But it did mean that I ended up creating most of the marketing materials because that's what I was good at already. So I just thought it would be easier.
I mean, it is a necessary side of the business,
Yeah.
and it's a part of the business that so many game devs do not know how to handle.
Hmm. Yes.
Like, yeah,
And I would argue that marketing starts before the game is even made, with
yeah,
the concept of the game being that, like, is there actually a market for the game that you're creating? Or are you just creating a game and then you're going to look for the market, which is the wrong way to do things?
well,
So yeah, I kind of thought there was a gap in the market with my city builder game, and then I wanted to make it really weird with the creatures and being able to build on top of like a giant crab and things like that to kind of be, I guess, a bit of a marketing tool as well, something that's eye-catching and interesting. It's kind of stand out from the pack. Oh, it's not just a city building game. There's also something else weird that you got to check out.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the magic slash curse of the indie scene. Um, it's like if you want to build a game, you can
Mhm.
do that, market or not. It doesn't mean it's going to do any business, but a lot of people, at least that show up on our program, they're less concerned about the market and more they just wanted to build this game.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, which is an admirable goal, but also, don't work yourself to death or put yourself into extreme debt over it either.
Right. It's like building a road without knowing whether people want to go from point A to B yet. You know, if you really want to build the road, just build it. But if you want people to drive on your road, then choose a good destination.
Uh, it, it- and it's further coupled by the fact that, and this is another topic that keeps rearing its head on the program here and elsewhere, and that is just the absolute deluge of games that exists every which way at once.
Yeah, and it's pretty intimidating. There's some really talented people out there making some really good stuff, and at cheap prices as well. So
Mhm.
there's and like every Next Fest, Steam Next Fest sees more and more games each time, and there are always some really cool ideas out there.
Yeah, I know a lot of conversation um, about gaming is related to price increases, but that's really on the AAA side of things.
Yeah,
Indie scene, it's like it's still $15-20 for your average indie game.
Or less.
True enough. I mean, and
Yeah.
we would know because we review 4 of them week in, week out.
Yeah. I think my game's a little bit on the expensive side.
Mm.
And I think that's, yeah. But it is what it is. There was kind of a price we came together. We made a decision on with my publisher, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to say like what the value of an experience is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you just kind of have to come to some conclusion. Although I think the game is priced a bit high based on the numbers behind the scenes. I have a lot of wish lists that are unfulfilled, and maybe that's normal. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I mean, $20 for Kainga seems perfectly reasonable to at least me. Like, we take pricing very much into account when we review a game, and I don't think I would have, especially for like a city builder, which is a game that has usually a ton of content in it, even on the small side of things. So,
Yeah.
like, you probably could have pushed it to 25, maybe 30 and gotten away with it, so to speak.
Maybe, yeah.
But you arrived at the price that you thought was best, and the market seemed to agree.
Yeah. So the conclusion, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Speaking of Kainga, I suppose my final question in regards to this game in particular is, do you have any further plans for it? Like, do you have any plans to bring it to, say, mobile devices or the Nintendo Switch or anything like that?
I do actually. So I have an update coming out. It's in the works. I have some people testing it, and it's pretty. It just has some new content, some basic things, some map modifiers to try to spice up the levels even more. And then you mentioned porting as well. I plan to port the game to Xbox and PlayStation. Um, and then hopefully Nintendo Switch if they ever answer my emails. But yeah, that's the goal at the moment. So I'm working on controller support. I've come up with this really clever idea, the clever way of doing it with like a circular selection. Like when you click and drag, you get this selection box, a square. On the controller, I've created a circular one where it like grows based on how far you click from. And I think it really works. It actually works surprisingly well. There's still a few problems here and there with like UI and things like that. So it's not 100% done. And I don't know the logic behind actually getting it onto the device, but that's the plan at the moment, is to put it onto Xbox and PlayStation. And then at the same time, it should be good for Steam Deck and other handhelds like Rogue Ally or whatever that use basic Steam. And then for Switch 2, hopefully that'll come at a later date as well.
Yeah. In terms of the Switch 2, as I understand it, everything is in flux, or rather, right now the indies who have the dev kits are the ones who are very close to Nintendo.
Are you solely
But they have
looking at Switch 2, or is there any possibility of Switch 1?
That's a good question. I think the game's not optimized well enough for Switch 1, but then I do say that, and then Tears of the Kingdom isn't optimized for Switch 1 either. So maybe it's fine. But yeah, I think there's a graphical a GPU what do you call it, threshold that I may not pass.
Possibly.
Possibly. I mean, it doesn't look like a very intensive game, but there's a lot of navigation running in the background, and that's kind of my
there's a lot
bottleneck.
of like physics and stuff behind the scenes people don't see. They just see shiny textures and not everything else physics wise the GPU is also processing.
Yeah, effects
And you
and
got to keep in mind, a city builder here is quite the expansive game
Mhm.
as
yeah,
well. So
yeah,
it's not just physics; it's doing a lot of calculations um, in
There's a
general.
reason why Civ used to actually be a pretty good CPU benchmark back in the day. Well, CPU and GPU benchmark,
mm,
because it made them work.
yeah.
Indeed. Yes. Um,
And that's
all those.
even it's turn-based as well, right? So
Yeah.
they don't have
Yes.
to run it real time.
Well, like it used to be a benchmark where a set number of time, be it 5, 10, 20 minutes, you'd see how many CPU turns would happen in that amount of time.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Huh.
So the more
Yeah.
powerful the system, the more turns it could do in that allotted amount of time.
Yeah. But the hardware's
Indeed.
gotten pretty good these days. Like you said, you mentioned mobile, and I don't doubt that it's possible to run the game on mobile either. I don't know
Oh,
control scheme wise, but somebody could make it happen. If you
Uh,
want to make it happen,
theoretically,
call me.
yeah, theoretically, like mobile would be a better platform for something like Kainga here because
Mhm.
this is a very mouse heavy game, and that
Mhm.
does translate to touchscreen controls a lot better than say a twin stick controller.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Um, and as far as power goes, that depends on what you target for. Because I mean, like the latest devices can run the latest AAA titles like Resident Evil 8 Village or Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Right. Yeah. It's getting kind of the limit is, it's harder to find.
Uh-huh. Um, but that's also, they're also $1,000 devices at the low end.
Mhm.
So, um, anyway, though you did bring up something else that I should ask. And that is, are you handling the porting yourself or are you contracting out for that?
I'm
Right.
in a bit of a, what do you call it? Um, I'm almost done with the porting myself in terms of controller support. So I figured I would do the controller support and then allow
Mm-hmm.
for the porting to be done by a porting company who knows all the systems and knows all the requirements, because those consoles are pretty strict on certain things. So it's a bit of
Yes.
both, actually. So I thought
Okay.
I wanted to get a handle on the controllers, the actual interface and how that all works, and they figure out how what other things we have to be able to do. For example, I know on PlayStation you have to be able to play the game with like one button press or something like that.
Hmm.
So you have to figure out how to manage that in certain cases, like a quick play option or something like that. Um, but I don't have a porting company. I had one put together, and I actually put my money into my new game for now. So it's on hold, but I will be coming back to it.
I'm sure. Um,
Yeah,
and I suppose that's as good as any transition into your current development effort, Shantytown.
yeah.
So I
So
suppose the first question here is, how does Shantytown differ from Kainga? Because you look at the trailer here and it looks pretty similar to Kainga,
well,
but
that's go
yeah,
ahead.
but there's more going on under the hood as it is. So,
Mhm.
what's the differentiator?
So Kainga is kind of a roguelite village builder where you kind of create a culture and you have like a specific objective you're trying to accomplish. In that game, you also have a leader, and he's kind of he or she is your, um, uh, I guess, like your queen, your king in chess. If they die, then you lose the round. But you also they guide your culture as well, so you have to go out and find these technologies. It's a lot more of a strategy game. Shantytown, on the other hand, is more of like a casual urban diorama building game. So they both
Hmm.
have a bit of building in them, and I did want to have a little bit of parallel in terms of style. They're supposed to be set in the same extended universe. Not that it matters either way, but I thought it would be kind of fun. Um, and it's on the other hand, it's a bit of a so there's no time limits, there's no lose scenario. All the objectives are optional. It's a really relaxing type of just kind of build a little urban diorama one at a time. And once you complete one of your dioramas, you take a photo of it and it gets added into a book. And then you move on to the next location and build there as well. Now, there's other games like it, like I don't know if you've heard of Tiny Glade or something like that,
Utopia?
Townscaper, um,
Oh,
possibly, yeah. But they're fully casual, fully creative in the sense that you can just put whatever you want wherever you want. And I wanted to make a little bit more of a guided experience, so the game gives you specific items to place at each location. And the goal there is to try to discover what the location is like while you're playing it. So you start off building like a little factory or something like that, and then the pieces that are coming out kind of turn into shops and like street food, and then it becomes like a market area. And I wanted to kind of do a little bit of slow storytelling while you're playing the game. That's kind of the goal there. And at the same time, I wanted to simulate something that I don't think has been done before, which is kind of the urban growth in a sense that um, you place something down, you're like, okay, that seems pretty good, and then you get another object later, and it's like, ooh, I really wish I hadn't placed that there, but now I kind of have to deal with that. So I have to like stack buildings or fit this bus stop over here in a small corner or try to make things work um, as best you can. And the result is kind of this organic growth, and that's the goal really, is to try to simulate like organic, unplanned or urban growth
Hmm.
in a small space.
Is there any particular statement you're trying to make with that narrative?
No, I just thought it was interesting, I guess. I the game itself, you're supposed to be playing a like a surveyor, a government surveyor, and your job is to go around and survey these locations and photos of them as and put them in your dossier. But yeah, I just thought it would be kind of an interesting thing to see how the choices you made at the start affect the choices you make, um, the choices you can make in the future, just on an architectural level. That's pretty much it. I'm not trying to make like a political statement or you know, but yeah.
Fair enough. Because yeah, there is certainly a lot that you can say about such a topic
Mhm.
in either direction, pro or against. Um,
Yeah,
but
actually, one of the early versions of the game, you would like charge rent, and then people would move in, and then you can upgrade their houses, and you get more money and stuff like that. And it just kind of turned into this weird, like, slumlord simulator. So I kind of got rid of all of that and made it more of a just a casual building game. I always liked those kind of Japanese style urban settings with the neon lights and the rain, those lo-fi atmospheres. So I wanted to be able to create that and let players create it as well.
hmm. And how long have you been working on Shantytown here?
Um, I think it's been about a year and a half, and it's slated to release later this year.
Hmm.
I'm almost done with it, but there's still some stuff. I should have a public demo out actually next month. Um,
Is that
participating in
tied to any a particular Steam event?
yeah, it's part of the Steam Next Fest.
Yeah, there we
Um,
go.
yeah, you got me. No, I should have out a little bit earlier as well because I'm doing a local event here in Berlin, Germany. And I thought I'll have my demo out early. A lot of indie developers don't know. They think they should launch their demo on the day of the next fest. But I think this is just my opinion, but I believe it's better to launch it before that.
I mean, does Valve have a problem with such things?
They actually recommend, this is new since the last time I would participate in Next Fest. They actually recommended I have the demo out a week before for press. They said this is like a press time. So I think they give press access to demos a week early, which is, I don't know if
Okay,
that's a new thing or not.
I think it is, but
Yeah.
as an outfit that is press, I get it as well
Yeah.
because I know when a Next Fest is approaching because I get so many letters about a game having their Next Fest demo. Like there's a
Mm.
lot of product out there during a Next
Yeah.
Fest. So it absolutely makes sense for the press to have extra lead time to be able to cover it in a reasonable amount.
Yeah, and it gives you time to make your video or review, and
Uh-huh.
then post that on the day of the launch of the public launch of the demo, which is perfect. Which is exactly what the developers should want as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so how much of a representation is this demo going to be? Like, is it going to be a third of the game? Or however you're measuring it?
I think it's gonna be five out of 20 locations, so oops, that is a quarter.
Hmm. Okay,
And
that's a pretty substantial amount.
yeah, it is. I hope it's not a mistake, but we'll see. I think it's good. Basically, my point of the demo is to see if people are interested in the game, and if they are, then they're probably going to buy it. Basically, I don't want people to buy the game if they're not interested, because that just leads to negative reviews, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. For Kainga, I have a pretty extensive demo as well, where you can pretty much play as much as you want. And that really helped with the review rating. So I'm hoping that this helps. I don't know. We'll see. I also didn't want the demo to be too short, like 20. I don't want to have like a 20-minute demo and then maybe wanting more is a good thing as well. I haven't quite thought it out yet, but obviously I'm just kind of playing at the seat of my pants.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the right saying.
Possibly.
Possibly. Yeah.
Like, and I suppose tying it back to the Kainga discussion, what are you doing on this project differently in terms of game dev?
Um, what do you mean differently? Oh,
Like
compared to my
in
other
terms,
game?
yeah, in terms of development policies, because there are very different tacks, very different bents here, but um, these are still both city builders, correct?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah. So I cut out basically my biggest headache in Kainga was um, navigation and pathfinding for people. So I decided to make a more simple game in general, and so I cut all of that out. So there are no people at all. And I know this may disappoint some people. Players will look at it and say, "Oh, I wish there was some characters walking around here and there." But just from a development point of view, it's a huge weight off my shoulders. But on the
Managing
other
scope
hand,
is important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But on the other hand, I decided to go bigger with visual fidelity, so there's a lot more detail, higher quality textures and things like that. Well, there's not many textures, but higher quality backgrounds and stuff. And that's kind of cost me a lot of development time. So what I've lost or what I've gained, I've also lost. I
That
think
is
for a future game, I will go more stylized again. I think it's more fun to make, and I also think it's more interesting to look at, and it's more forgiving. So players who look at stylized games, I think they're more accepting of flaws and issue or like weird things that happen. Because when physics kind of doesn't play exactly how you expect in Kainga, it's like well, they're little 2D guys. Like, what are they gonna do? But I think the higher fidelity you put into a game, higher expectations come with that.
right. And what's the biggest thing left to do on Shantytown?
The biggest thing left to do would be playtesting and balance, because all the objects that come out are handpicked by me. I want to make sure that there's good pacing, good balance, good use of like unique items and stuff like that. And of course, bug fixes. There's a lot of issues um, that need to be ironed out. There's also, I don't know if the version you played had saving and loading, but I don't think it did. And that's kind of a big uh, fish to tackle.
Mm. Yes, I'd imagine so.
Yeah, yeah. It's so big that I avoided it entirely in Kainga. There
Indeed.
is like it does save your progress between games and that, but you can't exit a game in the middle of a map and come back to it just because there's too much to try to remember. I don't know how some games do it, but maybe they're more clever than me. But this time I kind of grasped it a little bit better. So from the ground up, I knew this was going to be an issue because I wanted people to have the ability to send each other creations that they've built in the creative mode or otherwise. I thought it would be really
Mhm.
fun. It's like, oh, look at I built the bathhouse from or I don't know, I built Helm's Deep or whatever, okay. And then you can send them that file. So that I knew that saving and loading would be an important part of it.
Indeed. And I guess my final question is, have you worked out pricing on Shantytown yet?
I haven't. I'm doing some research, and similar titles are kind of all over the place. Some of them are like as low as $2, and some of them are up to like 15
Hmm.
or 19. So I don't really know. I think I'll probably hit somewhere right in the middle. Um, what do you recommend as experts in the? You guys review 4 games a week, right?
Yep.
What do you think?
Um, I'm thinking like $10 to $15 range.
Mhm.
Like two would definitely be way too little.
Yeah.
I think the minimum here is 10. I think the maximum is 15. Since
I
you're
think
going a much more casual, relaxed bent than what you did with Kainga.
mhm. It's got to be less for sure because there's less of a game here than there is in Kainga.
Right.
Yeah.
Petty, what about you? Anything you wish to add to the conversation?
He's getting a drink.
Sorry, I was
I mean,
muted.
he's
I'm
still,
over here just playing the game.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. He's been playing the game for the stream. So, um,
I see. Yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was a pre-recording.
Nope.
No, no, no,
Live
no.
gameplay.
We've
Oh,
been
okay.
live in every aspect to this point. Um, this will be, it is being recorded and it'll be sent to YouTube let's say sometime, if not today, then tomorrow.
Mhm.
Right. But um, outside of that, yeah, I think I'm good here. Petty, what about you?
I think I'm good.
All right.
I'm also being
All
yelled
right.
at by my cat, so just
That'll do
Well,
it.
yeah. Well, Eric, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today to talk about your games. It's been a
Sure.
very enlightening conversation.
Yeah, I hope I hope my views on how game dev works is interesting to some. And yeah,
Yeah.
this was a great opportunity. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. Right. So once again, the games are Kayinga out now on
Mhm.
Steam, and Shantytown, which is available to wishlist on Steam. So be sure
Yeah.
to go do that today if you wish to purchase Kayinga. It is 19.99 USD. Um, so be sure to go and do that at your earliest possible convenience. And yeah, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. As always, be sure to tune in next time for the Sunday review show. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.